Hello, everybody. This is Gynarchic Awakening. I'm going to make this a bit shorter. I just had what can only be described as a writing frenzy thing again. It happens every once in a while. It's while I'm brainstorming topics for videos and things to think about and so on. And so this came up. Uh, I've discussed in past, or at least I've mentioned in past videos, about doing survey research or some kind of other Gynarchic research for for your in-person community. In order to acquire more knowledge about the world around you. But there's also such a thing as self-knowledge. In this case, knowledge of community. So that led me to these questions. What kind of surveys would you construct for Gynarchists? And then and also the other question, what do we need to know more about our own community? What do we need to know more about ourselves that maybe we don't know? So I decided to write a bunch of questions for Gynarchists. These are survey questions, although these are more like you can provide any written answers you want. It's not going to be yes, no, or fill in one of four bubbles. You answer however you want to. That's your freedom. I will read these questions out. If you feel that any questions need to be included, please feel free to do so. If you feel like answering those questions, also please feel free to do so. And if you want to construct your own survey for Gynarchists, because maybe you're curious about something or you want to see how somebody reacts to a specific question, feel free to go ahead. Anything I can do to serve and help. So here are the questions. How much feminist literature have you read? When did you start reading? Please be specific. 2. Do you find yourself talking more to male Gynarchists or women Gynarchists? And I do mean publicly and privately. And the third one is, would you consider yourself a non-kinky Gynarchist? In other words, is this a Gynarchist that made their entry point into the community from a place that did not involve the femdom community or any kind of kink-related community? Did they just happen upon the language somehow, or did they have a thought in their head and figured it out that way? In other words, these are people who probably didn't self-identify as this before, but then somehow came across the material. Next question, what metrics would you use to measure the progress of the Gynarchy community? So for an instance, in other words, should we measure by the amount of people who have been joining in any given group, by the popularity of female-led relationships compared to a decade ago, and so on and so forth? In other words, just how are we judging this? How are we going to go about determining if we're actually going in or not, or if this is just an illusion that we've all caught ourselves in? Here's the fifth one. How often do you think about Gynarchy in your day-to-day life? Do you intentionally set aside time for it? Like if you're working a 9 to 5 or you've got 2 jobs, do you feel like your job lets you think about it, or do you have to actually intentionally first you have to rest, calm down, or do whatever you need to do, and then you take like an hour or 2 out of your day to like maybe put your feet up on an ottoman and give it some thought, or however it is that you do that. The next question, by the way, there are 17 questions. 6, are you engaged in any personal projects related to Gynarchy, such as fan fiction, book writing, research, filmmaking, and so on, or any academic work, whatever suits your fancy? In other words, something that it's like a passion project. Number 7, if a stranger were to ask you what 5 topics were the most important as it related to Gynarchy, what would they be? Question 8. Oh, goodness. These small things, I do not like them. Look at this. Look at how small this is. Okay. What gives you hope as a Gynarchist? Question 8. Question 9. What changes has the Gynarchy community had on? Like, maybe I shouldn't ask like the, how has the Gynarchy community changed you? That's the better way of asking this question instead of what changes has the Gynarchy community had on you. I mean, why not just say influence? But I think it's better to ask what, the other question. Question 10, what was your first impression of the Gynarchy community when you found it? Question 11, are your beliefs rooted more in empiricism or personal upbringing? In other words, how you were raised to think and feel. 12, what age did you begin identifying as a Gynarchist? Did it happen when you were young? Was it in middle age, or were you a bit older? Closer to elderly status. 13, do you feel that the online community satisfies your social emotional needs? If so, to what degree? 14, have you gone through any personal changes since becoming a Gynarchist? Now, when I mean personal changes, I mean, yeah, you know what? I made a mistake. This is the same as the other question. I just rephrased it differently. I'm going to have to cross this out. That's what happens when you act like a goofball. Okay, 15 is a different question. Okay, how often do you talk to people about Gynarchy offline? Who do you converse with? Number 16. Well, technically it's 15, but whatever. How do you handle your doubts about the community and movement? Does anything get you past that? Number 17. Do you feel like topics related to Gynarchy occur naturally to you, or do you spend time brainstorming them before posting? So this is kind of like, it's just, this one is really important to me, and I would really appreciate it if everyone, if they're going to answer anyone, I would love it if it was this, because I feel like I have to brainstorm all the time. I'd also think that has to do with my lack of knowledge on certain topics, and maybe it would feel more natural for me if it wasn't. But do people, when they're posting topics related to Gynarchy, does it feel normal? Does it just come to you and then you just type it out and you're like, okay, great. You don't really put a lot of thought into it. You just go for it. Or do you like to spend a bunch of time brainstorming topics or whatever? Like I do this all the time. I have all these different, if you can see it. Hold on a second. Yeah, see, if you see one of these dashed lines right here, I'm always brainstorming, different topics. Like, for example, this one was like different levels of engagement in our community. How should our community interact with dissimilar communities? Stuff like that. Or signs that point to a Gynarchic nature or whatever. So I kind of feel like if I didn't have my ability to brainstorm, I wouldn't be able to participate as much in the community as maybe others can who have what I would call a stronger foundation, a better upbringing, certainly better in their case as opposed to mine. Mine was horrible. But anyways, these are all the questions I could think of. If you have any you would like to add, of course, as before, please feel free to mention it. Well wishes, everybody. I hope you have a great weekend. Please take care out there, and peace out.